ministers are reportedly considering sending asylum seekers here in Britain to a remote island over 4,000 miles from the UK in another ploy to stop the boats. This volcanic island, Ascension Island it's called, it was used as a strategic military base during the Falklands War, and the RAF do continue to operate there. Now, this has been described as a radical plan B for if the Rwanda scheme was ruled unlawful by the Supreme Court. So is it a real possibility or just a rumour? What is life on the Ascension Island actually like? Will it be safe? Do people even mind that at this point? Some quarters seemingly not. Joining me to discuss all of this, Rusty Furman, SAS B squadron veteran who spent time training on that island back in 1982. There's a picture of young Rusty there. He also played an integral role in the Iranian embassy siege of 1980. There was the famous picture of the man without the gloves during that famous siege in London. A lot of our viewers will remember that. Good to have you in the studio, Rusty.
Thanks for the invite.
Well, you know what? We just wanted a conversation with you generally because it's always interesting to talk with a man that's had the career you've had, but particularly off the Ascension Island. Proposal, because you've been there. First off, just what's it like?
Well, it's a long time since I've been there. Obviously, 1982 when the Falklands Island conflict was on. But it's big and spacious, and I think the migrants would love it there.
Do you really?
Absolutely love it. Yeah, it's have a whale of a time, you know, with the ocean there and everything
What's
else.
there to do?
Nothing.
Yeah, right. So what makes you think they'd love it?
So that's what they're doing here, isn't it? They come here and they don't do anything apart from collect the money and get housed. Why not go there? Put the barges off all the way around the Ascension Island, 88 square kilometres, put it down there, loads of room, very much like their climate, not far from Africa, 4,000 miles from us. I defy them to get in a dinghy and come from Ascension Islands to the UK and make it.
Now, that is a view that people in this country do share. I appreciate that. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I have a different opinion of how we should handle migrants, particularly given that the Rwanda scheme, which is failing through the courts at the moment, it was found that the cost of sending one migrant to Rwanda would be £169,000 per migrant, which is £63,000 more than keeping them in the UK. I'm not saying keep all migrants in the UK, but we do have to have a better scheme for processing rather than just sending people elsewhere, surely.
Yeah, well, let's process them down there, take them down there. Okay, at the moment, we've got our borders to secure, right? The two things that Suella Braverman are letting go are the very two things she's in charge of. The force areas should be kept secure and our borders. But we're letting people in who aren't, you know, they could be from anywhere, any background, predominantly fighting male age, all coming across here. Why not send them there, process them there properly? I didn't mean stay there forever and a day. Process them, and then when you're ready, bring them in and have a system that works.
Does that not sound astonishingly expensive and complicated to you? Because getting everyone over there, a processing centre, currently there's 800 people living on the island. They're not even citizens, they're not allowed to be. There's a British overseas territory and they're temporary residents, essentially. There's barely any buildings, there's barely any infrastructure. As you said, there's basically nothing there. So you want to set up an asylum processing centre over on Ascension Island?
Yeah, let them go there. Set up a bit of an infrastructure for them. I say they're not going to be there forever, but don't bring them here. They're fighting all the way around the UK. People don't want them. Bring them in when they're ready to come in, as many as you need, but don't overdo it. Give our borders a rest and give somebody else the pleasure of having the migrants.
I mean, it's still our work. It's a British overseas territory. It's not handing them over to a different country. Rwanda scheme is handing them to somebody else, but also ensuring there is housing and jobs. Ascension would just be creating an offshore processing centre in the middle of the South Atlantic.
Yeah, but that's fine. Rwanda, if they don't want them, they're not going to go there, are they?
Rusty, I don't think you and I are going to agree on this one at all.
Well, you know, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I'm here.
It is why you're here. I just find it interesting from a military man, somebody who has been so involved in logistics for so long, that you think that would be a rational proposal to this situation.
How many migrants are there?
I mean, thousands, tens of thousands all the time.
There we go.
A lot of people in this country would agree there is an issue. Controlled immigration is an issue in this country.
Well, let's try and help it. Let's see if it works. Let's not rule it out. You know, if it's going to cost that amount of money to get them there, then, and it can be processed properly, is that not better than maybe making our borders not secure?
I think a lot of people would agree with secure borders, whether or not you want to do that in the South Atlantic on a tiny island at great cost to the British taxpayer. Let's talk about something else as well while you're here. I wanted to bring you in on, because this is on Iran. We just talked about the Iranian embassy siege, and over the weekend we learned that Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, their office believed there is a real issue in this country with regards to Iranian spies, basically recruiting within organised gangs, because they're finding it much harder to get Iranians in that have malicious intent after the Salisbury poisonings.
Yep.
You were involved in the Iranian siege back then. How concerned are you by this?
Well, I mean, Iran is a big problem. I mean, a lot of people know that. But what can you do about it? You've got the government and the foreign office, sorry. They're not together on this. You know, if you want to get to the bottom of it, there's a split in the government and the foreign office. And it's all to do with not wanting to upset the Iranians. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can have your borders secure, because let's be honest, we are an island. You can have them wanting to, and I think the last count was 15 credible threats against people in the UK from the Iranians. We don't do anything about it because we don't want to upset them. What about, for once, go back to the Falklands, get proactive and deal with it before something happens? Not wait till it happens and then deal with it.
Some of this split you're talking about is Home Office ministers. Some of them have been pushing for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to be described as a terrorist organisation, but others are pushing back because they're worried, particularly from the Foreign Office, that will affect diplomatic ties to the United Kingdom and Iran. And you're saying get harder on that, call them terrorists, everything else. Can you understand that would make things very difficult when it comes to things like negotiating weapons and nuclear armament agreements and the return of hostages?
Yeah. I fully agree with it. I've been through it all my life. But what I do find is when we had a leader who led, they dealt with it.
Which leader was that in your mind?
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my day, we had leaders who led. I'm afraid that the leaders we've got in this country, I wouldn't follow them out of curiosity. None of them. Okay.
Speaking of which,
we need to be harder. And you know what? Everybody's sliding down this scale of saying, oh, what if? What if we upset them? What if we do this? Well, you know what? That's why we have a military capability. You know, we've got to deal with stuff like that.
I want to ask you about that because the British MOD has confirmed it's going to cut troop numbers from 82,000 to 73,000 by 2025. Obviously, you've got the war happening in Ukraine as well. What do you make of the current state of our armed forces here in the UK?
I tell you what, it's as bad as I've ever seen it. I personally wouldn't join the army again, but that's just me. But the fact is, they're cutting the numbers, and my opinion, if you ever want to get me in here and talk about the EDU, European Defence Union, which nobody wants to talk about, because we're involved with all the other countries, they say, oh, the European Union, no, it's the European Defence Union. I can tell you that now. But they won't come clean on that. So they're thinking, we've got all the other countries with us, we can make ours smaller, but we still need to defend our island. That is the problem.
What makes you say you wouldn't sign up to the army now if you had your time again?
Because I've seen how they're treated. I've seen how they prosecute veterans 40 and 50 years after they've gone and served for the country. I've been alongside them. You know, I'm a patron of 3 charities. You know, and I've seen it close, and I don't like what I'm seeing. Nothing. I hate it.
Is there any hope at the moment, given the governments you see coming? Anybody in government that inspires you to think that we'll get defence sorted in a way you would like?
It might be interesting if they could get some ex-military involved, but at the moment, in my opinion, the civil service runs it all. You know, we haven't got anybody that can stand up. Nobody wants to stand up and be counted.
Ben Wallace isn't the man that you would look to?
Sorry?
Ben Wallace?
Maybe, but he didn't want to do it. So Ben Wallace is one. I'd like somebody like Tim Collins or somebody like that I've served with. You know, somebody who's got a bit of credibility. And I've served with them, so I know. But that's just me. But it's got to be somebody more than one, I'm afraid. It needs a clear out. It needs to start and be a bit like the Iranians. It needs to be a bit more aggressive.
We'll take some inspiration from the Iranians. Didn't think we'd end there. Look, Rusty Furman, thank you very much.